Hello and welcome to E2E's Business Unusual, a video content series for and by the SME community. I'm your host, Fergus Mellon, and today we're joined by Roger Wade, founder and CEO of Boxpark. Before we hear from Roger, just a quick ask from me. If you like this content, please can you give it a thumbs up and a subscribe? It'll really help grow this channel. Roger, anyway, thanks so much for joining, and to get things underway, can you give us a brief overview of you and your business?
Firstly, thank you for inviting us today. My name is Roger Wade. I'm the CEO and founder of Boxpark. Boxpark, I guess, created the world's first pop-up mall in Shoreditch. We've then gone on to build two further food and drink developments in Croydon and Wembley. And our current development, Boxpark Wembley, is the official fan zone for Wembley Stadium. And I think we're trying to redefine food, drink and events all under one roof to create a perfect environment. Well, that's the aim anyway.
Can only assume that you've been very hard hit by COVID, and just could you run us through the impact to your business?
I mean, like many other hospitality businesses out there, we closed when the government told us to have a lockdown. So effectively, I think we've been closed since March the 20th. We furloughed 95% of our staff on day one. Our sort of strategy on lockdown was to just really conserve our cash and really reduce the cash burn during the lockdown period. And we were assuming sort of worst case scenarios, no incomes of up to 12 months, and best case scenarios, no income for 3 months, and then scaling up income over the next few quarters. So we furloughed our staff. I think we went from, say, £100,000 per month cash burn to something like £25,000 a month. Thanks to the help of the government salary furlough scheme, we made no redundancies, so we kept all of our staff. We even paid all of our staff that were on 0-hour contracts within our bars. And probably our greatest concern during this period wasn't so much the financial well-being of Boxpark, but the financial well-being of the tenants at Boxpark. So we have over 120 small food traders and retailers at Boxpark. And our concern was, would they be able to survive coronavirus? So we made the decision on day one of the lockdown to suspend all rents and service charge. So none of our tenants have had to pay any rent or service charge during the lockdown period, because we just didn't think it was fair to charge them. And we're now sort of gearing, hopefully, to get back to reopening Boxparks on July the 4th. I've just come back into work this week. I think we've got a couple of people in our accounts department here today, and we're hoping to restart the business from next Monday.
Oh, great. And yeah, I will say you are the first founder or anyone on Business Unusual who's actually taking this from the office. So feels like we're maybe getting to next normal.
There's a reason why for that, because normally when I'm at home taking interviews, I'm competing with my son for broadband. So trust me, it makes sense to come into my private office.
That's great. And just as we begin to unlock or get to next normal, you were saying, your best case scenario was no revenue 3 months, and then worst case 12 months. How are you feeling about that unlocking piece and getting to the next normal, what that will look like for kind of you, but also your tenants?
We're now optimistic that we can beat our best case scenarios, and we think those are minimum levels of business. I think it is going to be difficult to trade when we open in terms of safe distancing, and certainly the government reduced the safe distancing measures down from 2 meters to 1 meter. It's going to have a dramatic effect on our business. But we're bullish. We're bullish about the customer. We're bullish about them coming back to sites.
Yeah. Oh no, that's honestly that's fabulous to hear. We will get to how you got through to this point a little bit later in this interview. But just your business is very interesting, kind of regarding I'd say reimagining physical space. We look also at high streets. Do you see, and a great deal of concern for the businesses that operate there, do you see any kind of opportunities and trends to kind of reinvigorate kind of physical spaces as we emerge from lockdown?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that, there's too many people at the moment sort of predicting the death of the high street and predicting the death of physical retail. To be frank, I just don't buy into it at all. I just don't think anything really replaces the 360-degree experience when you go into a store, or certainly, the experience that when you go out to eat out as opposed to getting something to eat at home. I often equate buying on the internet like watching fireworks on TV. You just don't get the same experience. You really don't. And I think in the end, I think we've got to judge physical retail less by spreadsheets, and more by the emotional needs of the customer, and bring it back to the emotional needs of the customer. And the one thing I know about retail, it boils down to three main things. And those three main things, those three key ingredients of retail are content, traffic, and conversion. And the reality is that there's no better way to show your content off than a store. And that's what Steve Jobs knows. That's what even Elon Musk knew when he launched Teslas amongst Westfield shopping centers. And certainly when you looked at Apple having Apple stores, they knew the importance of the store because they realized you couldn't get that experience of touching that product, feeling that product, trialing that product if it wasn't for the store. So the store is a fantastic way of showing off content. And then the next most important thing, once you've got great content, is you've got to get traffic. And you know what? It's really expensive to get traffic online. It wouldn't be unusual in terms of PPC campaigns that you might pay £1 a click for someone to visit your website. Well, you know what? Stores can be a really efficient way to generate traffic. Why? Because simply you might have footfall traffic in there, you might have events in there, you might have bloggers come to your site. You're able to generate traffic as cost efficiently, if not more cost efficiently than online. And then finally, you can have the best content in the world. You can have fantastic traffic to your product, but you don't convert that into sales, you don't exist. Well, guess what? Online, you might convert at, 1%, 1 in 100 customers might convert into buying customers. Well, physical stores might convert at 10%, 10 times at that level. So physical stores are a great way to convert the customer. So when you look back at the three fundamentals of retail, it doesn't matter whether you're online, it doesn't matter whether you're in store. They are about content, traffic, and conversion. And actually the physical store, I would argue, would do a better job at ticking those boxes than your online.
And we're recording this on the 17th of June, and stores opened, or non-essential shops opened on the 15th. And I just live in Chiswick, and it was incredible to see just on the high street here, just how packed it was, and really back to life. So I'm with you. People want to get out in the real world, right?
It feels totally different, doesn't it, Ferg?
Yeah.
You're right. I've come into our office in Brighton today, and the stores opened on Monday. It was a completely different feel when I was coming into the office by myself during the whole period of COVID-19. It was like a ghost town out there. And that just goes to show the importance of stores to our communities. If I was going to predict one thing from post-lockdown in terms of business opportunities, the one thing I would predict is there would be a new world order. And by a new world order, I think what you're going to find is that larger businesses are going to really struggle to cope with the repercussions of COVID-19. They're going to struggle to really control their overheads. And as a result of that, you're going to have smaller businesses, SME businesses, moving into the vacuums that are created by the larger businesses. So for all those small businesses out there, there is no better time for you to grow, because literally it's the bigger businesses that are struggling. Read the papers every day. It's the Land Rovers that are struggling. It's the Pret-a-Manger are struggling. I mean, I find that incredible. It's the restaurant group struggling. It's the British Airways struggling. These are huge corporations struggling. Why are they struggling? They've got large overheads, large expenses. They're unable to reduce their cost base, and as a result of that, they're unable to move and change their business post COVID-19.
And I will just say, because we probably spoke for the first time 2 weeks ago, I'm glad to that we're interviewing this week, because the optimism coming through is fabulous, and I'm not sure, with all that uncertainty earlier, whether we'd have had the similar conversation. But yeah, that's really interesting. And just to that, when you say, when you're talking about opportunities, I was talking to a founder earlier this week, and regarding the government support packages, and she was saying that government shouldn't lose sight, and maybe it goes to your point of the small and medium-sized businesses, that can really be dynamic going forward. But this entrepreneur was talking about, well, government should also look at supporting the smaller businesses that are doing okay to help them grow, because they're the bright spots. Are there, it sounds like you were able to take advantage and your employees benefited from some of the government schemes, but coming out of this, are there other, and you were talking as well about the 2 meter to 1 meter rule. Are there areas of government support that you'd be looking for to help SMEs and society in general?
Yeah, I mean, good question. I mean, I sat in this week on a conference call with the Secretary of State for Business, Alex Sharma, Minister of Small Business, Paul Scully, and it was talking about economic growth and future economic growth for the UK, and initiatives from business leaders. And I was invited as one of those business leaders to talk about initiatives. And I think at this moment in time, and what I said on that conference call was, look, sometimes, for want of a better analogy, business is like war. There is a time to attack and there's a time to defend. So I believe the strategy of the government at the moment should be to defend, to keep the existing businesses that we've got. I totally agree with the measures that were taken in terms of the salary furlough scheme, in terms of business rates, in terms of CBIL loans, in terms of bounce back loans. I think all of those were great initiatives. But you've got to look at all areas of concern. You can't just, fix some areas. So I'm actually saying to the government at the moment, look, in the hospitality and retail sector, we've got 3 major cost centers beyond material costs. Let's just leave material costs to one side, okay? But beyond material costs, we've got salary, we've got rates, and we've got rent. Now, the government has done great things in terms of salary and rate, but unless we resolve the issue of rent, we're in real trouble. And it's almost like the Monty Python sketch, isn't it? I've had the knight has had both his arms chopped off. The government has sewn one arm back on, which is the salary. It was going to bleed to death in terms of salaries out there and in terms of rate. But you know what? I'm going to bleed to death for my other arm, which is my rent. So we're encouraging the government, and certainly the UK hospitality organisation is encouraging the government to make sure that we sort something out in terms of rental support. Because unless we sort something out in terms of rental support, all the good work that's been done to stop me bleeding for death are useless, because my other arm is still chopped off. You've got to address the ore issue. We've got to address the 3 fundamental issues of rates. We've got to address the issue of salary, and we've got to address now the issue of rent. Now, you've got some people saying, well, maybe that was CBIL loans and we were lent you money to resolve that issue. Well, in our circumstances, we never borrowed any money. And I don't think it's fair for the liability and responsibility to pay for the lockdown to be all on the operator. Why should it be laden down with debt to pay for rent? It's got to repay its debt at some period for a problem it didn't create. And I think the reality is landlords didn't create this problem, operators didn't create this problem, government didn't create this problem, but the government did insist on a lockdown, which is rightly so. And so all those 3 parties need to sit in a room at the moment and share the common problem and come up with a solution. And maybe that solution is a shared solution. Maybe landlords reduce their rent by 1/3 for a period of 12 months, backdated to Q2. Maybe the government give landlords a grant of 1/3 of the rent, and maybe the operators are responsible for the third. And that way we can at least see a bounce back. And that's what we want to have. What we don't want to have is waste all the money that we've already spent in terms of salary furlough and all the rest of the scheme, only for the businesses to topple. Because unless something's done on rent, businesses are going to go into CVAs and administrations, and they're going to do that because that's the easier alternative. And then, while we're at it, we need to operate with 1 meter safe distancing, and we need to get hospitality back open on the 4th of July.
Fascinating. Yeah. And earlier you were talking about kind of that partnership between, government, the operator, the small businesses or business, and then also the landlord. Just moving out of the situation we're in now, and again, the recovery, it sounds like is going to be very slow and potentially painful. There's that other constituent, the voter, and we might be business operators, we're voters. And again, back in the olden days, it was almost like government's the enemy of business. But here we've seen how government is supporting business and frankly the economy. Do you see a change in what society, the voter, will expect from business as we emerge from this?
It's a tough question. I think to be honest with you, I think the voter will judge the government based upon 3, 6 months, 12 months down the line, if it's still got jobs to go back to. I think we're really living in a false dawn at the moment. I think I really understood the need for a lockdown, but it's not a lockdown at all price. And what I'm really concerned about at the moment is that there would be more repercussion, more potential loss of life from the actual lockdown than there was from COVID-19. And examples of that might be just, you're only getting 10% of cancer diagnosis, and yet cancer kills 200,000 people a year every year. Never mind about other major illnesses. But I think also the thing that really concerns me is people's mental well-being. And what I am concerned about in terms of our society is what happens 12 months down the line and we've got mass unemployment in Britain. We've seen, the likes of British Airways, and to be frank, take advantage of COVID-19, lay off make redundant, mass redundancies of their staff, which I don't understand because we've got a period of furloughs. I don't know why they need to do that right now. And what really concerns me is we're 12 months down the line and we've got millions of people out of work because literally thousands of businesses have not survived lockdown and the repercussions of that in terms of our society. So to be frank with you, I don't think that anyone in our society is going to be remembering the help that's given at this moment in time. They're going to be judging the government on the businesses that survive post-lockdown. They're going to be judging the government in terms of businesses surviving. That is going to be the crucial thing.
No, and you also said as well, that very real. There's the physical health and mental health piece that everyone can go through from, like you said, redundancy, not having a job, not having purpose. But again, going back, to maybe the beginning of this situation, to me, talking to entrepreneurs, the uncertainty. Will my business survive? When will I be able to open up? That's almost crushing and very stressful in itself. How did what were there tactics you used to deal with your mental health and still being in it and dealing with that uncertainty and doubtless a ton of stress?
Yeah, Fergus, really good question. I'm lucky because, number one, we were in quite a strong cash position. So we knew that we could last up to 12 months without any income coming in. And there's many businesses out there that just haven't got that luxury. So I couldn't imagine the stress that those businesses were under, that were sort of managing their cash flow almost on a weekly basis. For myself, I just try to really keep a positive mental outlook, and to really appreciate what I've got in life. I think there's a tendency in entrepreneurs that we're always chasing something, and I equate it to sometimes like being on a dance floor. Well, we think the dance floor is about getting from A to B as quickly as possible. But you know what? That's not. The dance floor is about the moves in between. It's about enjoying life. So I think if anything, the lockdown just made me appreciate a really simple life, to stop chasing things, to spending more time with my family, to reflect about things. I actually personally took a leadership course. I'm on it at the moment, an executive leadership course, an online course with Oxford University, and that's because I wanted to become a better leader, because I felt that I was a good entrepreneur, but I wasn't necessarily the best leader, and I wanted to understand what it took to become a best leader. I tried to learn Spanish miserably. I worked on my golf game very well. It's got a lot better, but I think fundamentally I just appreciated what I've got, and said, I don't need to keep chasing things. I was on the verge of a major private equity deal. I was in due diligence. I was 1 week away from never having to worry about money again. So, but you know what? Things come and things go. And I just said, look, that hasn't happened, but I've still got a lot to appreciate. And I think we lose that tendency sometimes as an entrepreneur. I just want to remember some of the great things. The great things that have actually happened in this period is that we haven't made redundancies. We've really helped our tenants during this period. We've tried to help out our industry in terms of brokering things, in terms of government support. And, I'm just looking at the here and now. Tomorrow will take care of itself.
No, fascinating. And yeah, it's been particularly over the last few weeks, whether they're founders or CEOs of businesses, but two on Friday said, I'm going to change the way I work, full stop, coming from this, because they realized that they were, 5 a.m. calls and then 10 p.m. calls, and just a crazy stressful day. And they're like, yeah, but so much of that wasn't effective. And it feels like, yeah, you took that time to step back as well.
I totally agree with that approach. You only live once. You can't. You've got to reassess what your values are in life, and you've got to make sure that your personal goals match up to your business goals. And that's something that I undertook a couple of years ago, and actually went and actually really tried to assess what my personal goals were in life. Because it might sound quite morbid to your listeners, but I sort of, when I reached the age of 50, I'm now 54. I said, okay, I've sort of done the first 2/3 of my life, because both my parents died before they were 75. I've got 1/3 of my life left. What is my objectives in the last third of my life? What do I want? Do I want to work the rest of life? And to the entrepreneurs that are listening out there, I think it's really important to have objectives in terms of your business. When you have a business, there's only 3 real reasons that you have a business. You have a business you set up a business to sell a business. You have a business to hand over to your family, or you have a business for your ego. And definitely when I was younger, I think I ran a business for my ego, to be able to say, oh, I'm a CEO, I'm a founder, I do this, X, Y, and Z. But that's probably one of the worst reasons to have a business, because, it's not the easiest life to be an entrepreneur. So it's really important, any person that sets up their business, to have an exit strategy. My exit strategy is to build up Boxpark and sell it before I'm 55. So I've got a year to do that, or certainly get a majority sale of the business. So, that's my exit strategy. And I encourage any entrepreneurs, when you go into business, have an exit strategy.
And just the last question, and you may have already covered it, but just to ask it, is there a kind of a lesson you learned from this? It sounds like, again, just taking that step back, something that's been important to you. But is there's something that you learned during this crisis, this period, that you're going to apply, let's just say over the next 12 months, because hopefully you'll sell your business in 12 months, but for the remainder of your business career as you see it?
Just, appreciating what you've got, making sure you've got a really good work-life balance, understanding the role of a leader and what it takes to be a good leader in terms of motivating your staff and you know, reassessing your both your personal goals and your goals for your business in terms of what you want to achieve, and reassessing them on a regular basis, you know. And I mean, and to be frank with you, I think I mean, I've got more than 100 employees, and I think also during this period, you've had to take stock about what do we really need as a business. You know, what are the key roles within our business, who is critical to our business, who is maybe not critical to our business, because ultimately your responsibility as a CEO is to make sure that your business survives and hopefully thrives, you know. So I think this has been sort of quite a good time in terms, and I've called it a very expensive holiday. It's what I've called it, you know, the most expensive holiday I've ever been, and I haven't gone anywhere. But you know, it has also taught me some good lessons. So.